right, well, we're live on YouTube. Oh, no! Wait for it. There we go. Hey, everybody. We're live everywhere. I'm RuthAnn.
I'm Kris.
We are GeekChic Promotions, and we have awesome guests from Boss Level 8.
Hi. We don't know how to act in front of a camera.
Well, I'm going to share this around everywhere, and then we're going to nerd rage. Well, first, let's cheers to you guys joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Tinkerbell.
cheers to you guys.
These glasses look like they used to be taller.
These are sweet IKEA glasses that can either do hot or cold, so I can do hot toddies in them.
Which we've done.
Which we have done.
I do like hot toddies. I was once made fun of for ordering a hot toddy.
No way.
What? Who would make fun of you for?
Who would make fun of that?
To be fair, it was before I was gonna perform with the band, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have something light. I'm gonna have a hot toddy and a salad and a Caesar salad, and everyone in the band was like, everyone else is like ordering pizza and wings and all this stuff, and everyone was just like, I'll just have a hot toddy and a Caesar salad.
That's
Let's get a hot toddy and a Caesar salad. I was like, it's fucking good.
Jerks.
Leave me alone.
It's exactly what you need. Like
I was like,
when you have like.
I'm out of the band, boys.
Hello,
I'm out of the
Brandon
band.
Allen. Good to see you.
Out of the band. Hey, Brandon's here. Go
Hey,
figure.
what's up, Brandon?
Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
I like that. Go figure.
How's your face, Brandon? Mine's like this.
Yeah.
All right.
Apologize.
Apologize for my face? Man, that's gonna be years. Years.
Yeah, that many number of them.
Wow. That went well.
All right, so our main thing that we're going to rage about today is the new THUNDERCATS ROAR. But there's a lot of nerd rage stuff that happened this week. Because our dear sweet girl from Star Wars, I can never remember Kelly. Yes, she had to delete her Instagram because everybody was being such dicks to her. Because people suck, and it's not fair.
That was stupid.
Look, to be fair, she did ruin an entire franchise.
She did. Come on, man.
And that's the only clip anyone's taking out of this.
Exactly. Everyone's going to take that
out of context.
Did you hear what Nerd Rage said?
Oh my god, no. Boss Level 8, Boss Level 8, Boss Level 8.
It's nonsense.
It's absolute insanity.
Nonsense.
I mean, because last week we were talking about Solo, and like Solo ended up being pretty darn good. Like we enjoyed it.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
I think I know.
That's the big thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
I think I know why everyone's mad about Rose, and I think it's horrible.
Rose,
like
not Kelly.
Well, that her
character
real name
is Rose.
Yeah, her character's Rose. Her real name is Kelly.
But I think that
Rose by any name.
My theory as to exactly. My theory as to why everyone's mad about it is horrible, but I think it's true, and I think it's because you had her and her sister, right? Yeah. If you put them next to each other, according to a lot of people, they don't look related. When in reality, the girl who played Rose actually had a little bit more weight on her, like was a little bit more like chubby cheek, and like she had like baby face, I guess would be more of a way to describe it. They looked like they could have been related. It's just that one of them was stereotypically skinny hot. And I think that that people are mad about that.
That's what you think they're mad about? Because I just think it's because she's an Asian woman. Like
no, because
there's also
they're not bitching about her sister and the role that she played and the character or at all. And there's memes and stuff where they're putting them side by side, being like they're not related at all. And like I've seen stuff where people are like,
that's frustrating. On some, me and my sister look nothing alike. She's a tiny little blonde.
Neither do me and my sister.
Yeah, so and also acting. Right? Like.
Yeah, I think they're just mad that she wasn't as hot.
I think it had a big role to play in it. I think that if
and Brandon
she was
even said he actually liked Rose. I really liked Rose.
Me too. I walked away being like, great.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite parts of that movie. There's a lot of things that were like missing, but she's one of my favorite parts.
Well, I think people are also upset about that they were focusing on hers and Finn's relationship and not like his and Ray's and stuff like that.
That relationship was very forced. Like that's one of the like kind of problem that I kind of had with it. It felt really, it felt forced.
That was fine. I was
fine with it too. I thought actually, I don't think they were trying to do anything with it. I think it portrayed her having a crush on him very, very well, and he never acted interested.
Yeah,
in her.
that's true.
He was just being super like.
I also feel like when we, I feel like the way we talk about Star Wars and like the proverbial we and the fans and whatever. Yeah. I feel like we forget Star Wars.
Oh,
like
for definitely.
the relationships,
forget what
the
it
relationships
was.
that happen in the prequels and the
Yeah,
relationships that happen in the original
it's
trilogy.
a space opera.
Right.
Like,
They're
that's what
also
it is.
forced and show up out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and you're like, they're kissing now.
Yeah,
Okay. Like
Well, and
everything
also,
happens really
Leia
fast,
and
and that's
Luke before.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean,
come on,
Yeah.
like I understand we try not to have the prequels in our minds, but I'm sorry, but like little boy Anakin grows up and like
Yippee.
and
has weightless
Amidala
parents.
Yeah.
or Padme or whatever the hell you want to call her, like
Isn't it her
they end
birthday
up
today?
like they end up looking. She looks exactly the same, and now he's an adult, and now they can be together. Like
this
that's
is very true.
there are weird moments
I mean,
in
Natalie
relationships.
Portman does age well.
She does age well.
She doesn't age, period.
Yeah.
Well, I actually
Exactly.
think it's her yesterday or today was her birthday
Oh,
as well.
happy birthday,
So-
Natalie Portman.
At least that is what popped
My
up
girl,
on something
Nat.
that I saw
Hey.
in the
Hey.
last 72 hours. So maybe it was 3 days.
She
ago.
Okay.
she recently aged.
She recently on
Like one
paper
day,
aged.
she's gonna be old.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
day she's
That's
like
it.
that.
Like
right?
Jodie Foster. Did you guys see
Oh yeah.
Hotel Artemis?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. We
Okay,
saw it
I
a couple,
loved it. I
couple
loved
weeks
it
ago.
so much.
They
So
also
good.
did.
So much.
I also feel like I think that they actually aged her in that movie.
They didn't.
Really?
They
That's
did
right.
not.
Yeah, they just didn't use cleanup.
Yeah,
Oh,
they just
alright.
use
Like
the
in the
soft
new, like in the
focus
new.
and
Because I saw her
Mission
interviewed and she
Impossible.
looked
Yeah,
a heck
yeah.
of a lot
They used
better
Well,
than
she
that.
was
White
probably
was
made
old.
up.
well,
Sure, but I mean,
She
makeup
wasn't
can
good at that.
makeup can only do so much.
Yeah.
I've seen some ugly people.
You know what? She's
No, I
not.
thought they said they
Then
didn't
you
do
can
that.
But she was still amazing.
conversation.
in that
She is
movie.
amazing.
She was amazing in that whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was a great little movie. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah.
Well, and in general, the thing that we always talk about on Nerd Rage that's difficult is that nerds feel like, I'll fix it in a second, nerds feel like they own the franchise. Like, that's the thing of like,
true.
I didn't love The Last Jedi, but like, hey, I don't know the franchise. It was still fun. I still want more.
I love
They're
them.
mad
Like-
because they can't read their minds and make
Oh, yeah.
exactly what they've always
Exactly
imagined.
what they pictured. Hold on, guys,
Which
I'm
is
just gonna
which is
take this
stupid
notification off my phone.
because why would anybody like ever assume that that's it's like, and they're also mad that they didn't make Luke Skywalker Jesus.
Well, that he killed him off. I mean, there's so many. Like we already
Yeah,
did the
true.
whole thing, but it was so. It's
Yeah.
just
When it
this
comes-
week. It was so sad that she had to delete her
Right.
whole like Instagram account because nerds
Yeah.
were raging so
When
hard.
when it comes to all this stuff, it's a matter of how we remember things, and I think that we're
Right.
affecting how we remember things. We're taking that memory that isn't real,
This is right.
and then we're walking in with an expectation
Yes.
that shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Our expectation with watching a new Star Wars movie should be the same expectation as when we watched our first Star Wars movie.
Agreed.
This is
I
gonna
think
be
nostalgia-
this is gonna be fun.
Nostalgia plays a big part in anything
Yep.
people our age go to see,
Yeah.
and all fans are mostly our
Right.
age. And so we're hearkening back to our childhood,
Mm-hmm.
what made us feel good. But we watched it through the eyes of a child, and that's why we love it so much.
Mhm.
We didn't care, that Leia and Luke kissed back then.
yeah,
Sure.
it was just
Which
like
is
because
also-
we didn't know they were brothers
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time.
Which
So
is why all
it's
those
just-
reboots are working now too. It's like
Right,
when
yeah,
they brought back
exactly.
Alien with Predators now coming out, the new
Mhm.
Halloween and stuff like that. They're
Exactly.
introducing it to a new audience, but we're actually the money.
Right.
Yeah,
the
we are.
nostalgia's the
Yeah.
money.
But the problem is that when any of us, we think of the original Star Trek series, right? And
Such a
no.
huge-
No, but-
you can get me in a whole.
but
fucking
we
thing
don't
about
have to get
Star
into
Trek.
no,
I'll
we
get
don't
in a
have,
whole-
I love Star Trek, and we don't have to get into
Star Trek.
I love Star Trek, and calm down. I love Star
Okay.
Trek, and we don't have to get into a whole thing of
Found
Star
that
Trek.
button.
And this could be
Use that button all
this
the
could be
time.
said of anything because I love Star Trek and
Yeah.
I love Star Trek: Next Generation and all the way through. Like I love that. But like when you look back at like the original Star Trek, when you think about it, it's actually different than if you watch it again.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And so especially the last season, but
just-
of the original series.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that either. But that's the thing is that like you look back at anything and you're like, "Oh, I remember this being away." And then you watch it and like sometimes it's like, "No, that's not quite what I remember."
Yeah.
Well, a good way to
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say a good way to explain that too is like remember like those things that you loved to do when you were a kid, like that box fort you made, or like Mom let me slide down the stairs on the it's like, and then you like come back even like 8 years, 10 years later, you're like, I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
It's it's a completely
Yeah,
different
so silly.
context. Like just taking anything that you like to do when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, like nerds' imaginations when it comes to either comic books or movies or anything that we experience at a younger age, or even like when we're just reading it, we have our own imagination that we kind of like key into, and if something doesn't match that specifically, there are most nerds that get very angry. Like I only get mad when it's like they mess up the actual continuity, or like Because like it's written, it's literally written
it's
in
the
words.
universe.
Like it's there. Yeah,
canon.
it's canon.
It's the universe.
Which brings us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Thundercats.
the one thing I wanted to say that John mentioned that is a good point is he said Rose was great. They're just mad that being Jedi isn't reserved exclusively for magic fate white dudes anymore. Yeah, and he also mentioned we're never going to be able to see it again for the first time.
I don't know. I think
any
Finn
movie
is
ever
more
live up
sensitive.
to the pressure of that childhood nostalgia.
I don't know.
He's
Deadpool
right.
2 did. Because I was a child when I watched the first Deadpool.
It aged you. You grew up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I became a man
You could be
after
a man.
superhero landings.
Yes.
Yeah,
After
right around superhero landings.
minimum effort.
Yes.
So, but speaking of childhood nostalgia, 80s cartoon shows that are now being rebooted, i.e. Thundercats.
Yep.
So-
what a range of emotions I had about that.
That,
I did too.
I don't, okay, you guys go first, because if you guys haven't seen, they're doing a whole new thing on Cartoon Network or whatever for Thundercats Roar.
Right.
And it's very like Powerpuff Girls, like
It's
animation.
Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go is probably the best.
Titans
Yeah,
Go.
which is what made me.
animation.
Which is
Yeah,
what made
that's
me
right.
panic because
Yeah.
they ruined Teen Titans with Teen Titans Go.
Okay.
Okay.
No. That's
Like
valid.
they
valid point. Let's
changed.
get
They
into
totally
But
changed the tone
here's the
of it.
thing. Kids love it.
Unfortunately, I love.
But
I
is
love.
that
Look, I
fortunate?
was up at 6 in the
Is that
morning watching the.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean,
I think
because
so. Like,
kids
I
are
don't
being
know.
introduced.
Look at the stuff that we watched when we got up at 6 in the morning to go watch Saturday morning
Yeah.
cartoons. It was like the serious
They don't
Sonic
have
the
Saturday
Hedgehog
morning
that was
cartoons
badass,
anymore.
and like
Yeah,
the
there is
Ninja
no more
Turtles
of
that was
that.
awesome.
And of course,
And
all
like-
you
But
guys
if
comment
you
about
if you
this subject.
do go back and you look at the Ninja Turtles, that was awesome. They never actually use their weapons.
Yep.
They throw people in the
Right.
garbage cans instead of fighting them. It's corny and cheesy as hell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just seemed
But, like,
darker
It
because
just
we
seemed
were
darker
young.
at the time because you're like, holy crap, he
Right.
has a sword.
And as angry as like the new, if you watch the trailer on YouTube, it's like a 3-minute trailer for the new Thundercats Roar.
With the one with the director talking.
Yeah.
That's where I started shifting positions. It's
Yeah.
like, maybe.
Maybe because like I get the rage of like, no, this is not Thundercats, but if it gets a new generation into Thundercats,
Yes.
because like I hated the prequels of Star Wars, but there's a whole generation of people that's their Star Wars and that's how they got into Star
Exactly.
Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that's
So
a
it's like
very
as much
valid
as it
point.
hurts us, I didn't
We're
see
getting YouTube.
Oh, we're getting
comments, but
YouTube.
I don't. have
Okay, let me
YouTube
see
on
if I can.
Sorry.
Sorry,
I would,
well.
I would say the biggest question I have, the director was, or creator or whatever you want to call him, was talking about, he said he wanted to make it comedic because he felt like it was a world that was ripe for comedy and kind of built for comedy.
Right.
But looking back, I only really see 3 characters that were comedic in the entire thing.
I don't think that's what he was saying though.
I understand that. Like, I understand it, but he's saying it's built for
Right,
comedy.
because it's like a bunch of like sentient cats.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. But
Hey, Giorgio Mosley, we're seeing your comments now, and we totally agree. Cartoon Network kind of ruined Teen Titans with the animation in the Go show, and he also prefers the Thundercats old school animation. But
Right.
is that nostalgia? Like, that's the question
Well,
here.
I mean,
Is
there's no doubt it's better animation. I mean, none of us are going to disagree
Yeah.
on that. I mean, it just is. Like, and even the reboot in 2011 was good animation, anime. Like, it was Thundercats anime,
Yeah.
which looked amazing.
Yeah, which is
So
a really
it's not
fun
like
style.
I don't know if we can-
We're not purists
Yeah.
on this.
I don't know
It's
if I can
just-
comfortably like compare those any of these 3 art styles. Like the techniques
They're
of them
vastly
all are
different.
vastly different.
Yeah,
It's
they
just
are.
kind of like it's like I don't necessarily like the anime that came out of the 80s, like Lupin the Third style animations and stuff like that. I don't like the look. But like I feel like I
See,
can
that's
compare
like a
them to
personal
like
preference,
yeah, and
though, isn't it?
but I can compare it to a newer like like Tokyo Ghoul or something like that because they're the same execution, but they're 3 drastically different executions. So I feel it's hard
They
to
are.
compare.
But see, I don't feel like the 2011 one and the 80s one are that drastically different. I feel like this one's drastically different.
Yeah,
I feel like
agree.
I feel like the other 2 you can compare and you can go, those are in a similar vein. Those are kind of respectful to the original animation.
Yeah,
that was
they
going
more
on.
like updated the, like you said, made it more anime style, but the story was kind of the same. While
I
this
stand
is just
corrected on
so
that.
like
Those two,
goofy.
yeah. I'll
Like,
agree.
this-
with
I don't have a problem with them going kind of cute, goofy because I love Ninja Turtles and there has been badass, there has been cute, there's been CG, there's been
Right.
hand drawn.
Added Venus.
It
That's
is
what
very-
I-
does-
Adventure
That's what
Time.
I got
Well,
out
that's
Ninja
live
Turtles.
action and a very different thing.
Yeah.
Venus de Milo.
The chick one that they added in
Venus
the
Milo.
yeah. Wait, live action? They added her in live action?
Yeah,
too?
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, the one that was like the Saban one. It's awful.
Yeah, it's bad.
I didn't see
and
that
it makes
one.
no sense.
I just know the
and it makes no sense because they're all named after artists, and she's named after a statue.
Yeah, after like a goddess or whatever.
Made by an artist. So did Michelangelo make her? Whoa!
Not on board. Not on board.
Not on board either.
No.
But I don't mind changing animation styles. I don't mind any of that when it comes to this stuff. What I do mind is that the theory that it's ripe for comedy, I don't necessarily think is the right direction. He said that the action's still going to be there. He said for every bit of comedy, there's going to be like 3 times the amount of action or whatever the amount was.
Which is where I was like, okay.
Which is why I'm going to
I can run with.
That's why I'm going to give it a chance.
Right.
But personally, I don't like. There are 3 characters in Thundercats that were actually comedic. 4 if you count Snarfer. Well, 4 if you count Snarfer. Snarfer, his like nephew.
Yes, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But don't try to be a scrappy dude.
But you
know
have,
what I mean? Like there's always like that little version.
But you have Mum-Ra's henchmen. But like, if they make Mum-Ra comedic, that's weird.
Mum-Ra's the scariest thing to me.
I wonder if they're just going to go off the ridiculous. He's seeing it's ripe for comedy on the ridiculousness of the premise, not necessarily the characters that are within it. Like the universe is ridiculous.
I understand that, but based on that trailer, it looks like he's making a comedy that's going to have some action in it.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he's doing like a meta, like, look at how silly this is versus.
Well, it's very much if the Secret Life of or the whatever world of Gumball was turned into Thundercats. So that's the dad.
Which for me is
from Gumball.
Which for me is concerning.
Yeah.
Which for me is concerning.
Right.
Like, are they going to make like Jaga a joke? Like that's going to be.
Right.
Or are they going to be weird, right?
Or are they going to Brooklyn Nine-Nine it? Where everyone's good at their jobs, but it's also a very ridiculous premise.
Yeah, that it's almost sitcom-y.
Right, but it's still not action-y enough. That like Brooklyn Nine-Nine doesn't have the action.
I'm saying the feeling of it. Like they're all good at their jobs, but they're really stupid at the same time.
The younger generation on Thundercats that they go back.
That's the biggest question. So to catch up on some comments, so on YouTube, Giorgio says, don't make the cartoon look kiddie. I guess I prefer the cartoons way looked in the 90s, because that's a good point. Like, 90s were kind of like, even though Thundercats are in the 80s, I feel like the 90s were the sweet spot for like kids, like early 90s.
Sonic Sat AM, reboot.
But then we have some opposing stuff about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Gargoyles.
Pirates of Darkwater.
Gargoyles. Don't even. Pirates of Darkwater, yes. John mentions that like he didn't like the animation of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing because like the intro was good, but then the rest was completely unwatchable. Craig wants to say hey and thanks for like
hey Craig
being on the stream.
Craig.
Thanks, man. But now we have a totally opposing thing of Brandon says he tried watching the 80s Thundercats back in 2011 when the new one came out, and he said it was awful.
Well, that's a huge thing too. Is watching it that's it's lack of nostalgia at that point.
Yeah. Like, if you didn't grow up watching it,
Well, it's like looking at a 90s Toyota Corolla now instead of in 90.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like oh, that's kind of a nice car back then, but you look at it now, it's like
that's a really good comparison.
What is that?
Like look at that boxy POS. Like what the hell is that?
See, but it was a huge seller.
Yeah.
But my thing is, the original Thundercats, just like all of these cartoons, are intended for children. If you gave a 90s Corolla to a 10-year-old, they'd be like, holy crap, I have a car!
That's a very different way of looking
at it. Right? They'd be like, oh my god, I have a car right now!
Just 10-year-olds just roaming the streets in their Corollas.
But that's the thing, though. Like, you're handing someone...
There's a premise. There's a cartoon.
I think if you take an 8-year-old and show them Thundercats, and any of them. I think that they would still. I think that they would still enjoy it.
No,
even if they thought it was corny or stupid, I think that they would still like it.
Is it because now here's a kind of idea: is that when they watch like those old cartoons now, like these kids, is it that they automatically don't like it because they're taught that it looks old? Like, can that be one thing of just like seeing this older style?
There becomes an age.
Like, nah.
There's also probably not.
There becomes an age where that correlation can happen. But I don't think that's necessarily a thing that like. I think that's pretty late. Much later in life. That's like definitely like right around after the double digits.
I think that you can see. I think that you're able to see that something's older, but I think that like certain things are kind of timeless, for lack of a better way of saying it. Like,
fair.
If you play someone a Beatles song, like, you can recognize the fact that they didn't come out in 2018. But
she doesn't like the Beatles.
Which is
let's not start on this.
all right. We don't have to get into a whole discussion about how wrong you are. We can just we'll just continue the point.
I
maybe,
will bring up Star Trek.
Okay, I will.
And maybe say a different artist. I
No,
guess.
it's fine. It's fine.
No, all right. But if you play a kid a Beatles song or whatever, they're gonna know it didn't come out at the same time as Katy Perry.
This is true.
Yeah.
You can't help but know that. But you can still like it. And I think that the same thing can happen with cartoons. If you show a kid a Bugs Bunny cartoon, they're gonna know that wasn't made yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they can go, that's fine, he's dressed up as a woman so that he doesn't get shot by Elmer Fudd. Like,
do they still have lessons? Because I feel like all of the cartoons from the 80s had lessons
yeah.
attached.
Especially like G.I.
Some
Joe.
did,
Yeah.
Transformers did. So did
G.I. Joe
and
definitely
so
had
did
lessons.
Yeah, right.
That was the entire premise of it being built.
At the end and be like,
Captain
"This
Planet.
learned."
Captain Planet
Speed
had
Racer had
lessons.
lessons
He's
too.
a
Like
hero.
all of them had lessons attached to it at the end, where they're all like, joking around like, oh, I guess we learned how to blah blah blah, and they laugh about it.
Right.
Like, but
Right.
do they do that these days?
They not really. I don't feel like
Like,
they
I feel like there
do.
had to be an educational component.
I'm gonna be honest. Most of the cartoons I watch now, when it ends, I'm like, "What the hell just happened?"
Like regular show,
Regular show,
Yeah.
Adventure Time, Gumball, like Gravity Falls, like any of that
But
stuff. You're just like,
I feel
"What?"
like a lot of those shows are made for kids, but really
They're
high
for us.
adults.
Right.
Yeah,
like adult and super high.
because it's
Yeah.
well, and it's just for like adults in general eventually too, because you realize after about halfway through the second season that there's just been this like insane like subplot that's going to be the main course of the entire series once it's over, that they've thought of since then. So it's like kids get to go, yeah, pretty colors, and we're like, what is the lore that this is?
Right.
And we
It's
like
also
get into
true.
it. Yeah.
I also don't know what lesson you're allowed to tell now. That's a big thing, is that now we've gotten to the point where we don't know what we're allowed to teach kids.
And like, so
That's a tough
John brought up Superman, the old Superman cartoon, which
Uh-huh.
is kind of racist.
A little bit. Yeah,
Like,
very much so.
But it's super, like, I still have it actually on
See,
DVD.
that teaches
like,
the
it's
wrong
really
lesson.
cool.
It
Yeah,
is cool,
exactly.
yeah.
But like, now at least we're old enough to be like, oh, that's racist. Like,
Yeah.
to not show that to kids. But it's hard to figure out which lessons, and especially I'm sure for like Cartoon Network and all these different like companies, they have to be very middle of the road to not piss any.
What
Right.
did Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, teach all of us?
Oh
Right.
my God, I love it.
For me, Space Coast, Coast to Coast is how I
Yes.
know like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that whole. I never watched the
Back when
original
Cartoon
cartoons.
Network was
Yeah.
like good.
Aqua Teen.
Aqua
Oh
Teen
my
Hunger
God.
Force.
Never liked Squidbillies,
Cow and
but you
Chicken.
did.
Yeah, that didn't get it.
I
Why are you
Which
telling me I like
Cow and Chicken.
Because you
Squidbillies?
said
Oh,
you liked
yeah.
Squidbillies.
No.
Oh.
That shit.
Wrong conversation.
Okay.
I did not like
I tried.
Squidbillies.
I tried. I tried.
But that's a fair
And
point though, is
Brack
that now if you're saying Brack Show's hilarious.
Show.
But see
That's
now if you're like,
phenomenal.
hey, make sure you're nice to everyone, because some people, like, some boys kiss boys. Like, if you say that in a cartoon,
Yeah,
you're not allowed to say that in a cartoon, even though that could be a valuable lesson to people.
There only recently, I feel like Cartoon Network. I think there was one TV show, and I can't remember what it is, but there was like it was a very. I remember being Rugrat style, but the two parents were actually two women,
Yeah.
and like that was the first time, like, oh no, like you're crossing
Yeah,
some lines, but it
right.
was
I feel
so
like
like
there's still
low
basic
key.
lessons you can learn, like be nice, don't lie. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's
That's-
some basic stuff they could still do.
I agree,
John,
but
John
I feel like they're
like,
tiptoeing
commented
around
about
it,
that.
you
It was
know?
like,
It
just
might
be
be.
nice. Like
A
that's
lot
the
of-
one
I'll
that's
just
like.
be nice.
Am I just
nice. That's
crazy
the
and
best
being a
advice they can
conspiracy
do.
theorist about this? But is a lot of like cartoons lately have just like you've only seen one parent of the people now? Like you don't.
Yeah.
Have they just been like
Oh,
not
that's
giving
interesting.
giving a significant other to like one of the like,
they're, like,
to the
avoiding
parent
it.
or whatever?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that
I haven't-
yeah.
I haven't
Could be
noticed
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like it kind of started off with Disney, where Disney
Now
always
Rick
had
and
like
Morty.
one parent or no parent.
Right. They just made that dysfunctional.
Well,
Yeah.
Disney
And if we
Disney
have to
is
be
very
honest,
often
the standard nucleic family
yeah.
is the most dysfunctional thing you could make.
also Disney is very often dead parents. to be completely fair.
Yeah.
To be dead
It's-
parents.
it's
Yeah.
very often dead
And there's
parents.
like there's
Yeah.
a whole sad story about that, but
Yeah.
that's not what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
So Craig mentioned, putting the animation aside, it is the story that makes older cartoons hold up. Shows like Animaniacs to Gargoyles, it's the story that makes them still good and special.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Completely agree.
Well, aren't
Yeah.
you just good with words?
Yeah.
It's Craig. It's Craig.
Yeah.
It's great.
But no, that's a completely fair point.
Yeah, that's true.
And a big thing is that, like, I feel like sometimes we fight to be crazy when it comes to writing stuff. Like, we're like, let's make this as nonsensical as possible.
That's what
and
I
other
like,
times
yeah.
it's like, hey, this is actually a really interesting story.
That's what I like about Pixar. Like, Pixar always has this thing that even if a joke is funny, they're not going to put it in unless it actually matches, like, the characters and the story within it. So there's
Right.
nothing, just some offshoot weird thing. You're like, what? What was
Yeah.
that?
Like letting the comedy originate from the persona of the characters instead of just trying to force something in for a giggle.
And the story,
Yeah,
like,
we just
like
watched something
whether
where we
it's
were talking about
situational
that.
comedy, yeah.
What was that?
Don't know.
I
Oh
don't
no, it was
know.
Chef.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. A thing we can't talk about apparently.
Mm,
All right.
Interesting. Interesting. So,
All right.
yeah, you guys let us know if there's
Until
anything else
next year.
we missed about talking about the new THUNDERCATS ROAR, because this became a huge thing on the internet to the
Yes.
point where there was actually a fear of a shooting at CalArts because of this.
Yes, because apparently CalArts only churns out one style of animation, which is in this style.
Yeah, the Powerpuff
And
Girl.
so, you know, because
yeah.
CalArts is like, you know, feeds into Disney and feeds into like all these, you know, animation studios.
Sure.
Apparently, you know,
It's their
everyone's
fault.
super pissed off at it and just is
Literally this Monday, like
let's
just not even a week ago.
You know, kill everyone at CalArts who's doing this style.
Yeah,
Which
so
is
they
like,
had to evacuate the school and do this whole thing over a tweet because I
Yes.
mean you have to be careful of that kind of stuff.
Yes,
This
you
is
do.
how ridiculous nerds are getting.
Like, come on, guys.
My
Come
biggest
on.
thing about this whole announcement, though, is that I don't understand why they couldn't go the route of, like, the Voltron that went out on Netflix.
Well, because that was 2011's version.
Or
anime style.
or even like X-Men the animated series or something that was
yeah.
just like
Right.
a very stylized, cool-looking thing that had some humor in it, but at its heart told this like fantastical story.
Well, that's not
it's
what was
it's
pitched.
the
Yeah.
it's the direct
It's not what was
it was the
pitched,
director's
you know?
vision. It's what he
Yes,
wanted to.
exactly.
That's how he
Sure.
saw it, and that's what the things that he
It wasn't
was
like they were
drawing.
like, we should do a THUNDERCATS reboot,
and then finding a style.
Right,
he, was
right.
like, he had a style
He
in
had
mind,
it.
and
He
he was the
pitched
one
it.
that got
It
picked.
got
Yeah.
accepted.
I'm
So-
just wishing that that's
I
what,
know.
Yeah.
what was pitched.
Well,
So speaking
yeah.
of Voltron,
For
Eric says,
everything.
hello Eric. He says, I love a good story with great animation. Voltron is a good example to me. I love this old school series and love the new series on Netflix.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's, I think because the 2011 Thundercats didn't take off, honestly, I think it was too early, because only now I feel like there's the anime style very, like, mainstream.
Yeah, they were like 3 years early.
Yeah, they were 3 years early. It's not
Yeah.
crazy how something like it's
Well,
used to
a
be
lot of
us.
the backlash that we're seeing right now, like when people point to that 2011 series, like basically Cartoon Network is like, well, you should have watched it back then.
yeah.
You should have watched it. It would still be on, and this wouldn't be happening.
Well, it's the same thing with like any of those kind of cult classic things.
Yeah.
Like look at Firefly. Look at any of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
watch
all
it.
those.
Just watch it. Just watch it.
Anything
Yeah.
from
Just
him
watch
for a
it.
while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So-
watch it, for sure.
Yeah. But like the fans are bringing stuff back. Like we just went to the Sense8 premiere.
Yeah.
Netflix paid them or gave them money to finish out the season because of fan base. Or like Brooklyn Nine-Nine got
Exactly.
dropped,
And
picked
came
up,
back
dropped,
within
and
a
picked
day.
again.
Yeah, that was
But,
amazing.
and like,
What about
or-
Lucifer?
Oh, Lucifer.
So sad about that.
I can say that I'm the problem with that. I lost it after season 1.
I
never
mean,
got
there's
back
so
into
many
it.
shows that have
Yeah.
disappeared that like. You wonder why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's shows that were watched that disappeared.
That is
and-
something Netflix
and
has
a lot of
done
it-
good is they've given reasons.
They have.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's been
also-
very upfront about like this just costs. So
Well,
much
sometimes
money.
it's things
Yeah.
that are pitted against each other as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Like when the whole Family Guy thing that ended up happening when Family Guy first came out, it was on at a certain time,
Yes.
and then it wasn't
Well, then it went away, and then
No,
because
no,
the
no.
DVD sales went so
before
well.
it went away.
Yeah, yeah.
They changed.
They
the time
changed the
slot.
day and
Oh, they
time
did.
slot
Yeah.
constantly. So even if you liked the show, you didn't even
That's
know
the same
when it
thing
was
with
on.
Firefly too.
Yeah.
So it's
Firefly,
bouncing all
yeah.
over the place.
It's like what happened with Monty Python.
like
Like,
pre-DVD
you never know if they were ever
Mhm.
going to come back or
Was
not.
it?
It
for a long
was.
time. They were just
Right.
like,
It
it'd be
was
like
only
Tuesday
pretty
at 10
recent.
suddenly.
Right.
No, it's
You know?
not. I had
One episode.
I had TiVo. When did I have TiVo? Back in the early 2000s.
How TiVo?
But not a lot of people had that
No.
back in early
Yeah.
2000s. Like I definitely didn't. I probably didn't start getting that stuff until like.
If I found out you had TiVo, I'd be like, oh, you're a TV.
Oh, you're
That's how I would
fan
respond to
thing.
it.
Well, I'm sorry, because Buffy and Charmed was on at the same damn time.
I understand.
What am I supposed to
Decisions
do?
had to be made.
I get it.
What am I supposed to do?
I understand the application of
cry.
chemo.
The
All
normal
I'm saying
thing is
is,
to cry.
I would turn and be
Well-
like, well, you fancy AF. Because you have...
That's right, because I don't
That's
want to
all I'm
miss
saying.
those two shows. I had 2 TVs going, one in the bedroom and one in the living room. I have to go back and forth.
Oh, look at you with all your money and
All of my TVs.
TVs.
I had 6 TVs in my
I only had
bathroom.
one VCR though.
I almost died once watching Angel.
I got it confused with Touched by Any.
Oh, well, we got touched. Wait,
Very,
what?
very different.
Huh?
Very
What?
different.
Well, to wrap up the Thundercats thing, I feel like we're all on the same.
What a weird way to
I'm
end.
trying.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Anyways,
Speaking of Dad, let's end this.
Yeah.
well, the Thundercats, I feel like we're all on the same page. Is that we don't like the animation, but it might be the way to get. It might. It's
It
not
might
for
win
us.
us over.
Well, it's not for
I
us.
don't hate
Also,
the animation.
it's-
I just think it just might not be right for the show. Like it might
Yeah,
be right
I-
for a completely different show.
Yeah.
Sure.
And-
It'll be interesting to see who, like, if it does bring in a new generation of fans. Like,
I'm curious about it.
I'm
Yeah.
picturing like
I'm-
8 to 12, like, or even younger, like 5 to.
Oh,
I wanna
5 to
see
8,
that's
somewhere
what
around
they're
there.
gonna do.
If
Yeah.
there's not a badass fight of some sort, like if something badass doesn't happen in this show, I'm gonna be upset
Well, and
because
did you
so
see-
many badass things
Yeah.
happen in Thundercats.
The only thing I am
Done.
concerned about is that I did see what Mummer looked like, and I was not on board.
Right,
With that
yeah, I'm a little
because-
upset with that, too.
Yeah, I was a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So, guys, where can we follow you on all of the social medias?
All of everything says Boss Level 8.
Yes,
Yeah.
do it.
Just do it with no spaces and you'll
Yeah.
find it.
You can find us on YouTube making fun of movie critics, and then all over social media.
Not doing
Not
anything
doing
with
as
that.
much as we do on YouTube.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you guys for joining
Thanks
as
for
well.
Thank you for
having
having us.
Yes, and we'll see you for Ruze Tuesday and next week for Nerd Rage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, see you guys then.
Wee.
Bye.
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 Giant thumb.
Giant thumb.
I like that.